All right, guys, the time has come. The Lotus is finally complete and ready to go home to its owner, Jeff. And we're gonna show you a little bit of the wrap up here. I can add throttle. So I usually leave it very low right here. And then in the target pressure area is where I say, okay, this is what I want to target. That way I get the PID control working and not saying revert to the table because it's very archaic. You know, if you do it this way, then yes, it reverts to your base table. So it would likely be under target. But then my peripheral control, or my proportional gain rather, is high enough that, oh, okay, this is my base duty at this RPM, but my target is slightly higher. So it'll come to the base first, then work up to the where it needs to be, instead of coming to that. And by the time it gets there and says, whoa, we're overshooting, and it tries to pull back down on the integral control, where we've already hit boost power.
But we can see it. Let's see how it, you know, how things feel, how drivable it is. I mean, you know what I mean? So we'll see what it is, and then we'll figure out if we need to modify wastegate and do all that other stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a far draw. Let's say current temp is currently 15.
Yeah. So it's really compressed charge, so you'll get the best feeling now than ever. But still, that's why we put all that cooling in the intercooling and stuff.
Yeah, Jeff, you've had an opportunity to drive this thing. That's the first time in 7 years.
7 long years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So first thoughts, what do you think?
Amazing. Definitely, I had an emotional attachment to this car. Had a project in mind, brought it here, to TCS because as time would have it, I didn't have time to do my own anymore, my own work. And basically, with the help of Seamus, made a dream come true. So it's more than I really expected it to be. I mean, it's more than just a car. The whole time I spent here working on the project, it was an experience. And I couldn't be happier with the product. Today, I don't know where everybody else is, but it's New England, it's January. So it was about 25 degrees outside. So not the optimum time to test a car with our compound tires and this kind of horsepower. But I can tell, right now that it's going to exceed my expectations. And I'm looking forward to trying it out this summer. On a proper track. We working on the setup next. So it's really, it's not an ending, but a different beginning. And
Step one of the next phase.
Step one of the next phase. Yep. But it's really, what I had envisioned. The guys here, I want to give a shout out to, Seamus obviously, but Evan too. Evan did a lot of custom work on this that made it possible. A project like this, it's kind of a one-off. We had an idea what we wanted to do. There's really nothing off the shelf that you can do, and you really just need the right combination of people and, talent to do it. So I was lucky enough to find a shop, close to where I live that, checked all the boxes.
Yeah, it's crazy to think. So I remember, let's go back 3 years. It's been 3 years pretty much in the making for this project. And, the planning phases were huge. So it was like a year. It was almost a year, let's say 10 months before the ball started getting rolling.
Yep.
We were working out initially. So initially, the plan was not even to do a K-Series. It was to do a 2ZZ, and you already had one built. The 2ZZ is the factory engine, for those that don't know. It's a Toyota-based engine. And, we started talking about stuff, and it just was like, wow, this, the K-Series is probably going to make the most sense here.
Yep.
And then there were some uncommon things that were sort of requirements or prerequisites for this project, which were having the E153 and, 3SGT transmission, and how that was all going to work, and whether it could be adapted. And I know initially we talked about potentially doing just a K-Series 6-speed, and then I'm like, this transmission's pretty awesome, and I know that guys do adapt them in the MR2 platforms, and just sort of what that all looked like. And we've covered a lot of that in some of the previous videos, just talking about like what was required to get everything adapted in this specific use case, including changing the Hux Racing Cannibal adapter kit so that the starter from the K-Series was utilized instead of the other one, just because of how the shifter assembly was modified.
Something we didn't expect.
Yeah, just basically along the entire way was like, okay, we would run into a roadblock, primarily dimensional constraints and what do we need to do in order to fit it underneath a tunnel back style Elise versus like the Exige, they're a fastback. So you have all this headroom and places to put things where you don't necessarily have that on the Elise, but.
And actually do it in a way that still retains some function, the way they were able to reconstruct the back clam, give space for the manifold and the turbocharger, but still have a boot, and actually a better solution than some of the others had developed, where they exhaust right through the back of the clam.
Yeah, they'll
taking
sort of
out
cut
the
this area
headlights.
out. Yeah.
And,
It's very race car-y. Like they'll almost do. It's it's similar to like the Ferrari Challenge cars and stuff, where they have like a perforated rear, so that heat can leave here. But then you sacrifice your entire trunk area. Not that you're putting a substantial amount of things back here, but like if you want to go to the track with the car, that's gloves and shoes and suit and this and that and helmet on the passenger seat, and that could be potentially a small toolkit to change your track to street pads or whatever you need to do. Pump out whip for the Staubli and all that stuff could go in the back, and it's one kit. You don't necessarily need a trailer in that case. It's not like there's a frunk or anything on these cars. You can't even open the front at all without a toolkit. So,
and from the beginning, I had talked with Seamus about kind of maintaining the OEM appearance of the Lotus, because there are other shops that would build an exhaust manifold and they would exhaust right through the top of the clam, and I said no, I don't want any of that. It kind of looks crazy. So we really had to spend a lot of time with all those dimensional constraints, figuring out where to put things, make it so that the clam could sit on there. I don't know how many times they had to take off the clam, put it back on to check to see if things would clear. But in the end, things are tight, but everything worked out great. And other than, as Seamus said, this monster wing that I have on the top, the car would look basically like the Elise was always meant to look. Right.
Very, I mean, an extreme car by road car standards, but still very subdued compared to like the modern era of hypercar and craziness. Sure. But yeah, I mean, to the Lotus community, which is really the perspective or opinions that you're really going to care about, when the lid is down, no one's really going to know anything. There's nothing that alludes to the fact that this is as extreme as it is, which is really cool.
And when we're talking extreme, we're talking extreme numbers. We had to spend a lot of time, keeping the horsepower down because this car will easily put down 400 wheel horsepower now without any trouble at all. Yeah. So we wanted to maintain the drivability of an Elise, yet it does have the capability of a supercar now.
In basically any gear.
Yeah, in any gear.
It really doesn't matter. It's just where do you want the revs to be, but it responds and does everything well.
Yeah, when I started with this car, as the Lotus community will know, it was 1.8 liter, Toyota engine that made almost 200 horsepower. And it's really made to, handle curves and things like that. But, now it can handle just about all the tracks that come along. Where you hit those big long straights and you can enjoy.
I mean, really the only limitation aside from like top gearing in terms of top speed and final drive is courage. Yeah. I mean, I really it's like how far do you want to push it? How deep do you want to brake? How committed to power are you? Yep. And this thing is just going to absolutely annihilate tracks. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. So I got back into the car after 7 years, and I said, I had missed this. And I've driven other ones. I currently, daily drive a Supra, newer generation Supra, which is a beautiful car. I like to do it, but when I got back into the Lotus, I said, I had missed this. This is a proper track car, Yeah. So thanks to Seamus and all the guys at TCS for, making that dream possible, and, I hope to continue our relationship as I, work on the setup and everything else that to make this a dream on the track too.
Well, I've said it before, and I'll say it again for everybody. It's been fantastic working with you. These types of projects are very difficult. Not only do they create a financial strain just because they are expensive by nature, aside from that is just the stress, the timeline about, okay, we're putting all of our eggs in one basket, you know, this is our sort of design strategy, this is the direction that we're headed. It might suck when we get to the end, you know. We've got a lot of experience doing these sorts of things and modifying cars to a point where, you know, sort of the OEM look and feel is kind of unrecognizable. You know, while also not going overboard. You know, too many people, like we've talked about before, go overboard. And it's really comes down to having a good balance, and that takes time, and that takes effort, and that takes attention to detail. And because of that, it's the time and the survivability from a customer standpoint of the project is really what becomes the difficult part. And having someone that you trust that's not just ripping you off or taking your money, you know, and not really doing what they said they were going to do, seeing that through to the end, it requires a lot of trust and a lot of faith in people. And you know, 3 years is not a short amount of time.
No, it isn't.
And I think we built a really good relationship in that time. And I appreciate you because you're interested in the stuff. You want to know the details. You want to know how everything works, where a lot of guys are just like, you know, that's cool. Like when I hit the gas pedal, does it, you know, surprise me or scare me or whatever? And that's sometimes okay, but you know, for the most part, like I am a nerd looking for nerds. And I like people who are interested in, interested in diving in and figuring out like, whoa, this is cool. And like, you know, as I was suggesting things, like obviously going with Haltech, it just makes sense for me. The how that works into our ecosystem is just perfect. So then you, of course, instead of just going, oh, okay, Haltech sounds good, and then going about your day, you know, you're looking up like, oh, look at these features. And it was always cool, you know, you'd come in and you'd be like, hey, did you see they updated the firmware or whatever? And I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to like download that. That sort of connection to the car and to the project made me excited. And it's just, again, it's been fantastic working with you the entire time. So I appreciate all of the faith and trust that you put in us. And I appreciate your patience. And I'm excited to see, you know, what happens when we go to the track and
next
really
season.
start extracting some performance out of the car. And
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, cool. Guys, thank you for keeping up with all this stuff. And that's it. No, I don't know, hold on. And that's the, David! And that's the K24 Turbo Lotus project, done.
See you on the track.
Thanks, guys.